Hey, hello everybody. My name is Matt Curran, and today I'm honored to have Jason Deel with me. How you doing today, Jason?
Hey, Matt. Good. How are you?
Good, good. So, Jason, just first off, so people can get to know you, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So, like Matt said, I'm Jason Deel. Grew up in a little small town over in the mountains of southwestern Virginia, from the Appalachian Mountains, and grew up there. Joined the Army, and later went to school and became an officer in the Army. Spent 20 years in as an infantry officer, and now I'm a business owner. Run a little auction company in the mountains of Tennessee.
So, Army of One, right?
Army of all, buddy.
Army of all, man. So I've seen a little bit about you. We've talked a little bit, but so we have a little commonality. Obviously, I'm a retired Marine. You're a retired, Army, and so you have quite a few deployments, don't you? Tell us just a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when I joined the Army in '95, not a whole lot was going on. Got commissioned in 2000, and spent some time getting integrated in as an officer in the Army. A little bit different side of the world there, and then of course 9/11 happened.
That's right.
Right, and we all can remember exactly where we were during 9/11. And I was in a field training exercise. 9/11 kicked off, and then my life changed. The entire world as we know it changed. Have all been affected by it. So started out going to deployed to Iraq 3 times, and then ended up deploying to Afghanistan twice. So it's been about 5.5 years total in combat.
Yeah.
Obviously had good times, had a lot of bad times too, but most importantly, learned a whole lot about me, learned what my capabilities were, and obviously gained a lot of experience from doing that. And so it's really kind of a unique situation for an old country boy from the mountains, something you didn't expect.
That's right. So I was in the Marine Corps, and I was on leave, ready to go on deployment. So I ended up in Afghanistan, November 2001. So one of the first waves in there. So appreciate your service and what you've done. And we might be from different services, but we're still brothers. Having served our country. So appreciate that. But that's not what we're here to talk about. That's Convene Military that, hopefully we'll both be a big part of. But let's talk about Convene Auctioneers, a community that I never could have dreamed of having, but a community that is literally, taking off in front of my eyes. And I appreciate everything you're doing. So just tell me a little bit about being an auctioneer and why Convene Community.
Yeah, so let's kind of take it. We'll back up just a little bit. So as I exited the Army, I knew I wanted to be a business owner. But more importantly, I wanted to belong to something. I wanted to continue to belong to something that was a little bit bigger than myself. And as you well know, serving in the military, that's one of the things that it's about. So I started looking at different professions, what I really wanted to do and what I had a strong passion for. And I just gravitated toward the auction industry. And I later found out that there's professional organizations, the National Auctioneers Association. I'm in Tennessee now, and the Tennessee Auctioneers Association. And I quickly started to meet people. And as a young guy in this profession, a lot of the auctioneers are in the older generation. I had to learn a lot, and I had to listen a lot. And there's auctioneers who have been doing this for 40 years. And let me tell you, they've got a lot of experiences. Yeah, and I've been like a sponge for the past 5 years. But here's the problem. The problem came in that most of the time I would only get those experiences for one weekend out of the year, or one weekend, at a convention or something. So I had to try to pick their brain. Then I became trying to figure out, is there a better way for younger guys or guys like me? Some of the guys look up to me now because I've kind of figured a few things out, to share what we know to help make other auction firms better. And we got a saying in the auctioneers community, it's auctioneers helping auctioneers. And then if there's other auctioneers in the room, everybody responds with an AHA, auctioneers helping auctioneers, the abbreviation.
Yeah.
So it's really something that's very relative right now within this industry, is being able to help each other and share those experiences.
Yeah. So I loved it. I'll tell you a little bit. I've known Jason for a little bit of time, but a couple of weeks ago, as I was watching you on Facebook, I was watching you, really try to share some of your experience and knowledge. And and I've watched you do some online auction stuff. It's fascinating to me. I just love watching it. And but you were given some advice on a Facebook Live, and so I hit you up and I said, hey, here maybe we have a way that we can connect and we can create a community, and you can continue to help work with others, because that's what you're already doing. You are already creating content. You're already sharing the goodness out there. So, kind of marrying the two up, and then we ended up talking.
Yeah, and that was obviously we have a mutual friend with Eugene Brown.
Yeah.
And so that, he had kind of given me a heads up, and I'll continue on where I left off is I became, started on a search for, of course, there's Facebook and there's Twitter and there's LinkedIn and there's ways that we can share data. But here's the problem that I've encountered over the past 4.5 years. When someone asks a question within the auctioneers group, it's what we call in the Army as a 30,000 foot flyover.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a little bit of information and then a quick kind of blurb of here's kind of my response, but there's no deep dive. There's no critical thinking involved. And so I really started kind of looking at it of a way, how can I really dive into whatever that question is that young guy or even that older guy is asking, to share what I know of how we could possibly solve that person's problem or answer that person's question. And there was nothing that existed.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that, that it's good about Convene if you look at, Facebook groups are great, and they really serve a true purpose. But if you look at when somebody puts something out there on a topic, you tend to lose that topic, or you might have been one of the favorite, first people to give a great advice. What happens when 30, 40, 50 people have given some advice? It's gone. It's way down, or the conversation changes. So that's good. So continue on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So obviously that platform didn't exist. There was not a way to break the chain, because there's been a chain that has been established of quick responses. Here's my little quick response, and I'm going to move on to something else. But if we're serious about sharing an experience, and if we're serious about sharing the lessons that we've learned from name an incident, whether it's in a firefight, how to react to it, or whether it's how do I select an auction? What platform do I put it on? What method do I use to sell a particular item? If you really want to answer that question, you got to deep dive into it, and you got to share some ideas to help people critically think. And I got to tell you, Matt, that's what you're doing here with Convene, which is what I was thoroughly impressed with, which is what we're starting to build now. So if you're an auctioneer watching this is an opportunity now for you to really get in and provide some critical discussion, which will ultimately help with decision making. Because at the end of the day, as auctioneers, we work for our clients. We have a fiduciary relationship with our clients, and we want to be as knowledgeable as we can possibly be as we conduct that auction for that client. And that's what we've started to do. We've just started to talk to a few auctioneers and start spreading the word, but it's coming. It's coming now. You're starting to see some responses that I'm posting, and you're going to see some critical thought and within answers that people are posing within communities of Facebook and Twitter and other places.
I think you brought up something really interesting earlier that's important to Convene and to the app and to what we're doing, is that you said that the level of experience of auctioneers is broad. You have some people who are just starting out, but you have some people who've been doing it for 40 years. And so how do you think that plays in when people go in and they answer, you write an experience, and maybe give an example of one of the experiences that you've written. How does it play out if some of the auctioneers who've been doing it for 25, 30, 40 years, are able to go in there and give that advice to some of the new guys? And then maybe how is it that if some of the new guys who are just coming into it like yourself, the point I try to make is that just because they've been doing it forever don't mean they have all the answers. Just because you're new, you might have some answers, but maybe you're sharing. And so So talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah. So one, I'm a big results guy, and I like to measure success. And success is very much measurable, defined by the variables that you lay out for that. It could be money, it could be the number of items that you've sold. However you define success, that's measurable. So as you take a deep dive into that and look at that, when you're sharing an experience or answering a question, it's important to include a little bit of background information on why you're sharing, why your feelings or why your thoughts go back to the answer that you've given. And I'll go into a one that I just wrote about last night. There was a younger guy who asked, he's got an estate that he's working on, and he's wanting to know, in the auction industry, there's generally 3 ways to conduct an auction. You conduct it live, where it's in person. There's no online bidding authorized or available. There's a webcast where you have live bidding and simultaneously you have online bidding coming in together. And then there's an online only auction. There's no live crowd in front of you. It's just bidding activity online. So I went through what we have learned over the last 5 years from conducting all 3 of those, and I compared it to, I used the asset of currency and coins.
Okay.
And I'll make this one brief, because if you're interested in my thoughts, just go and check out that experience that I wrote about. But at the end of the day, I was able to measure cost and the price that we were getting from the asset that we were selling and seeing if it made sense.
Yeah.
Right? So if I'm doing a webcast auction, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that your overhead, your fixed expenses are going to go up, because you have an auctioneer you got to pay, a backup auctioneer, you got a clerk, you got staff that's going to be working the floor, you got power you got to pay your rent for your building. So your cost as a business is going to increase, versus an online only, where your overhead could potentially be low. Quite frankly, you could do it out of your garage if you wanted to. And your reach, think about the people that you're going to reach.
Yes.
Now, the experience that I had was, after years and years of doing these auctions, of holding a webcast auction, I may have 2 or 3 people sitting in front of me, but have 70 people bidding online. So why would we continue to pay large expenses to cater to those 2 people when we could do the same thing by doing it online only and lower expenses, and at the same time charge less and get a higher price? So being able to talk that through to a young person, it makes sense to them. Yeah. You can show them real examples and walk through that decision-making process and why you made those decisions. Not just throw out a comment that online auctions are the way to go because they're the way of the future. Well, why is that? Let's talk about that. Well,
that's right. I think that's a great example. And I think, talk about it. Give your answers. That's one of the things that's so unique about Convene, and I think, is that when I go in and I answer a question, no matter what that topic is, I'm answering the question. I'm not reading all of your comments and then answering a question based off what, I say Jason Deel's comment was. I'm answering the question, and I'm, if it's a good question, open-ended question, the who, what, when, where, why question. If I'm answering that, then I can put a quality answer in. So when I go in and I'm reading everybody else's answers, I'm actually learning something. I'm not reading the comment like you just said. That's actually perfect. I'm not reading the comment that going, well, Jason Deel, I agree with you. I think the online auction is the way to go. And the other ways, that's just not the way to go. And that's my comment. And so you don't get much out of that,
Right.
And
right.
So that's the different format, different way to think, different way to train.
And it's a different way to learn, and it's a different way to teach. Because at the end of the day, it's about value. Do you have any value that you can add to my problem?
Yeah.
And if you do, then I want to hear what that value that you have. What experience do you have? And right now, like you said before, Facebook groups, they have their own space, and they're great for quick, short answers and quick, short questions. But when it comes to something that we need to share experiences with people and talk to them about that experience, Convene Communities is where it's at. I mean, You've got the platform set up here.
Well, I appreciate that. And I don't want to jump back and talk too much about the military, but this is how we train. This is how we learn. Yeah. This is what we did, when we're going and we're getting ready to go and do things in the military, we prepare. and we prepare. And then we prepare, we brief, we go through the process, the implementation, and then we debrief and we learn where we made mistakes. And we do that over and over and over before we get to the real mission. So hopefully when we get to the real mission, it's all good. Well, if you go back, that's a little bit of how we built Convene, is really how you and I learned in the process. And the more I went out and spoke about it, the more I talked about it, people would come up to me and they would say, hey, Matt, I love what you talk about when you're talking about decision making as being a first responder or being a pilot. Yeah, that's great. But you were talking to me about being married. You were talking to me about X, Y, and Z. And so is it applicable to being a auctioneer? Well, yeah. I mean, you tell me about that. It is. I think it is.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. And we're talking about the auctioneers community right now, but let's face it, any topic this is applicable to. Yeah. We're not the strongest military in the world by accident.
Yeah.
Figured this out. We know how to train, and then we know when we made mistakes, how to bring those mistakes to surface, provide the correctional training that was required, and then go back and execute it a little bit better before we hit the target. Yeah. Right? That's what we did.
That's right. So this is interesting to me. So and I think, you're talking about military. Obviously, we're talking about we're a big family, no matter what branch you're in. But auctioneers, it sounds like to me, it's the same thing. It seems like it's a big family that you all look out for each other, and so you can all learn from each other.
Oh, it is. And there again, is I'll be honest. I did have a couple of people early on in my career said, Jason, I'm not sure you're going to make it because you're too nice and you like to share too much information on what you're learning. And some of your competitors are going to feed and eat that up. But at the end of the day, we're all in the same industry. If I have a good auction and you're a competitor of mine, it makes our industry look even better. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's about making each other continue to look better and continue to hold that name of that auction to a high standard. And that's important to me, of being in this profession and having a professional atmosphere to go to ask questions and not worry about being belittled or something negative, but learn from other people's mistakes, successes. That's what it's all about.
That is what it's all about. So a couple of attributes about the app that I think people might want to know. And obviously we want them to jump in and go through some of your experiences. And at the end of, we post this podcast at the end in the blog that's attached to it, we're going to have some of these experiences where they can click on it and go straight to some of Jason's experiences and groups. But so, we tell them, besides the question piece, what are some other things that are built into the experience? And then also after that, we're going to talk about groups a little bit.
Yeah. So one of the things that I really like about the experience itself is, so there's really kind of three parts to it. There's the background, to talk a little bit about why are you, creating or sharing this experience. Just a little bit of history, so to speak, for the background. And then you really get into the experience. And what I really enjoy doing with the way that the experiences are designed is, the way I write them is you're going to see some text and then you're going to have a video. And I'm going to kind of walk you through the video. Some people are more visual learners, and it's easier for me to get a lot more words in by talking on the video versus typing it all out. So sometimes that makes sense. So we'll get into the experience of what that situation was. And that's probably a good word to talk about, is the situation that you were in. Share that situation, and normally it's a 3 or 4 minute video. And then there's the questions of kind of helping you think through some critical thinking. And then what I really like is the lessons learned.
Yeah.
The last part of it is the lessons learned of how this affected me, positive or negative, why we made the decision. Once we made that decision, what did we learn from that decision? So you're going to see that third video and read about lessons that we learned. And then you'll go into some discussion of, what's some of your thoughts on, what's some of the questions you have, or how are you doing this?
And and I think you're right. The lessons learned is so important. So, maybe you did some things right, maybe you did some things wrong, but maybe this next time I would do it differently in this way. And so you're really sharing that piece. And I think you're right. You hit the nail on the head. That's so important. The discussion board, I love that too, because anybody can add a discussion. It's not just what, Jason, it's not just the topic that Jason wrote, other people can ask questions and start that discussion. So I really call that part continuing in the conversation. So let's jump in here. We've gone through this about live auctions or other types of auctions, but then let's continue the conversation afterwards. Let me ask you this, and this is a question, but there's an anonymity piece to the answers. Talk about that just a little bit and say why that could be important.
Yes. So I really like that because it adds a level of security,
Yeah.
right? Even if it's just internal security. Because here's the thing, you may disagree with something that I have to say, and that's perfectly fine because we're in a learning environment constantly. And you may be a little bit shy, or you may not want me to think bad of you, or you may just think I might think bad of you, and that's okay. Post that response, post that discussion, and it's anonymous.
Yeah.
And it gives me an opportunity and challenge me, right? That's what it's all about. All of our forefathers are good CEOs. They love being challenged and talk about your experience and your discussions.
Yeah.
Great thing that you've implemented there with the anonymity. Love it.
Yeah. So I want to bring this point up because I think this is kind of important, but anybody can write an experience, right? So anybody can come in and they can write a public experience. Like the whole purpose of this community is to grow. So if I'm a young auctioneer or an older auctioneer, I can come in and I can write an experience. And if it's a public experience, it gets submitted to you because there is an approval process to make sure there's nothing inappropriate. And then you'll look at it and you'll approve it and all that. There's two ways to do that. I want to bring that up. You can write it as yourself. So I can write it as Matthew Curran, or let's just say I got a question that I really want to ask and I don't really want people to know that it's me because I'm so new at being an auctioneer. I can write that anonymously, right? So it's right there in the question. So I just wanted to bring that up because I think that's important because I may want to write an experience and just ask that question. So if you go back to the Facebook things and some of the questions that people are asking on Facebook, what can they do?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's you're tagged, right? It's coming from you on Facebook. Everybody knows it's you, and they're like, "Come on, Matt."
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's part of it, and that's it. The other thing you said it's important, guys. We're in the ground floor of the auctioneers community. We've been working on this now for 3 or 4 days, and it's really kind of starting to. I can really see how this is going to be useful for our industry.
Yeah.
This is not Jason Deel's community. This is the auctioneers community. I'm just on here talking to you a little bit about it just because I kind of figured it out a little bit with the CEO here. So this is the auctioneers community, definitely not my community.
Well, that's right. So people can go in and they can, create groups. They can create content. They can do everything and we want people to. We want people to grow it and all that. And we want people to share the good. And that's what it's all about. It's all about sharing the goodness. Again, and auctioneers and parenting and life and Christians, it doesn't matter what community is. It's there to really grow it and really join it. So let's talk just a little bit about groups because we've talked about experiences and sharing our experience and knowledge. That's what I really call it. But let's tell them about groups and some of the good things that are in the groups, if you do.
Yeah, and I'll give you the 30,000-foot flyover because I'm 4 days into this thing. But here's kind of how I see it playing out, and then Matt, I'd like for you to kind of close it up there with the groups. But as we talk about the groups, and what I've done is I've just set up a few. There's the live auctioneers. If you do live auctions only, that's your baby. Get into live auctioneers group and start the communication in there. There's the online only. If that's all you do, that's your baby. There's the webcast. If you do webcast, or if you're only doing live auctions, you want to learn about online only auctions, go into the online onlys group and start learning and start sharing experiences, start asking those questions. And then of course, Matt, you can talk a little bit about more detail with that.
So I give a little bit of functionality that's inside of it. So really what we've done with Convene and with the groups is we've tried to go out there and take the goodness from everything that's out there and, some of the other things. So there's really, there's if you need to communicate with people and you want to communicate with people, you can use that as an internal business source if you want to set up a group for your business, right? Some of the things that it has group information. So there's that first little part that talks about what the group is all about. That's the information about the group. There is the announcements. One of my favorite pieces is the announcements. So let's just say, Jason, let's just say you're going to do a Facebook Live or something. You're going to do some live content on, online auctions, right? You can go into that announcements, that group announcements. As a group leader, you can put your announcement in there. As soon as you hit submit, it'll send an email out to everybody that's inside that group that says, hey, the announcement that, hey, we're doing this at this time, watch it. And it'll also send another notification out there if you select it in your profile. But that's a great thing because it's kind of like a group me. You're able to communicate with the people that are members within that. The next piece is a message board. So you got the message board that's in Facebook or whatever, but now we have a message board in there. It works the same. Here's the awesome thing about it. It doesn't disappear. What you post today is not going to be gone in 48 hours, 72 hours. It's there, and there's a constant history about there. And it's almost like a discussion board, but you can, let's say you put a topic out there, like, what are you doing? How are you scheduling your online auction? I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm just throwing that out there. But that's people can come in and answer those questions, and that it stays right there. And so that all that history is right there, so people can go read that feed and learn from it. It's not going to disappear. So that's another thing. And then also, if somebody responds, you can get a notification if you choose to get that notification. Members, this is so important. Profiles are important within Convene because you can tell a little bit about who you are. Take LinkedIn, for example. LinkedIn allows you to share who you are professionally. Well, you can build that same profile. But this is what inside that online auction group, the members that are inside that group, guess what? They're all interested in online auction, and they might be online auctioneers. So you can now you're professionally networking inside that group with people.
Yeah, and Matt, I want to interrupt you just for a second. One of the things you're probably not aware of within the auctioneer industry, there are what's called contract auctioneers, and they make a living going and helping guys like me conduct auctions. So you build that profile, it's important, but here's a really cool feature about that profile. You had a really good auction as a contract auctioneer, record that video, upload that, put that in your profile. For a guy like me who's looking for an auctioneer, I can go through, look at the profiles, make a decision, listen to your bid chant, listen to your bid call, and see if it's a good fit for an upcoming auction. So love the profile. You've got a lot of details in there, and it's important.
The profile is huge. And the other thing I'll tell you that's great about the profile is, okay, so within Convene, we don't want you to change anything you're already doing, right? What do you have in your profile? You have your connection to your website. You have the connection to your Facebook, all your other social media. Don't quit what you're doing. Keep doing that. That's all the goodness. But now we have somewhere we can bring it together and continue the conversation. Last thing I'll talk about in that is two things. One, in there, you can assign experiences. So you write experiences, you can assign it out to the whole group. And that's a pretty cool thing. The other thing you can do is find somebody's experience that they've written. And you might say, hey, this is a great experience that this person wrote. Well, if it's a public experience, you can pull it into your group and you can let everybody see it. And now you're talking about that. So you don't just have to share your experiences. If you find good ones that are good for your people, you can share other ones as well. And then the last thing I'll talk about is a syllabus. You can write a syllabus where you can have, 1 through, 10 courses and all that. So experiences in a row. So it's a syllabus that people can go through, and you can go, like we said, there's public groups, private groups, and then we call it premier groups. Premier groups is if you don't want to sell content. A private group, if you want to have a small group where you control who goes in and out. Then a public group, anybody comes in. So
yeah, and that's another cool feature, Matt, is, one of the things I was on a search for is a virtual classroom, so to speak. And we have that ability within Convene now, which is a really cool concept. There are auctioneers right now that I would gladly pay money to hear them speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that ability is yours to have simply through a premier group. And you can upload, like Matt was just saying, a syllabus and have your own virtual training. So I don't have to travel to Ohio. I don't have to travel to California. If you've got something that I need to know to help this business.
Yeah.
It's right here. It's right here.
Well, my background is training. I mean, that's what I did. I was in the Marine Corps. I was a pilot. I was a flight school instructor. I was a weapons tactics instructor. And then I stayed out after I got done flying the V-22 Austria. I stayed in the V-22. So my background is training. So again, a lot of this comes from a training background. And in my mind, one of the things, yeah, you can buy learning management systems out there that let people go through the classes, but what's missing is the community piece of it. And the community piece where now I'm selling training or I'm in there taking training and everybody's an auctioneer. So your audience is right there. It's built for you because everybody's interested in it, except, you might have me in there and Eugene in there.
Right. Hey, maybe you'll be an auctioneer one day.
Turn it up, man. Like I said, I like watching you. I'm redneck enough. I could be an auctioneer and I could probably got some good twang, man. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, I really had no idea that this would be one of the best communities, and it's taking form right in front of our eyes, as we launch Convene Communities out. And I can't say anything, I just appreciate you, we've talked a lot, you see it. I mean, you see it like I see it. It's about sharing our experiences and knowledge. And I think that really, no matter what the community is, and this is going to be a great community, people can learn from each other. And that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. You said it right there. Learning from each other, sharing our experiences, listens to lessons, learn from your mistakes. Don't make those same mistakes. That's it. That's the ticket to success.
Well, I like Jason so much, I've asked him to be on the Convene advisory board. So you can go to convenecommunities.com and go to our team, and you can click on his links and they'll take you to him. You can get in touch with him. But come in and join the community, join the Convene Auctioneers community, and go follow his profile. You can private message him in there. We have private messaging, so you can get in touch with Jason. You can find his email, get in touch with him. I know you want to see this thing grow, right, Jason? So
absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited. I really am. Great product you put together so far, Matt. Great product.
I truly appreciate, the kind words and all that, but I really am, looking forward to working with you. And I'm really looking forward to watching this grow, and hopefully, seeing other communities grow, like people who maybe I want to buy something, so,
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll sell it through Convene, but, do auctions through Convene. But, no, Jason, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You got what's your parting words? Just, go ahead. You got the floor.
Just excited. I mean, bottom line is this is something that in our industry that we have needed for a very, very long time. And I'm just going to talk about the auctioneer industry. We've needed this for forever to be able to really share deep thoughts, critical thinking, lessons learned to help each other grow. And we finally found what we need.
I appreciate it. So, all right, everybody reach out to Jason. Everybody come in and join convenecommunities.com. Well, actually go to Jason and talk to him, and go into Convene. He'll be sharing the stuff here. But yeah, we look forward to seeing you within the community, and we look forward to growing with you. I appreciate it, Jason. Thanks,
Matt. Have a good night.
All right, we'll see you.